From the first moment I saw her, I knew she would be trouble. Not the kind of trouble that makes life interesting. No, the kind that turns everything you've built upside down. Her name was Cassandra Monroe, and she wasn't just a rival in business. She was the person I hated with a fierce, burning intensity one didn't understand at first. I had been CEO of Linton Media for nearly 5 years, a company my late father had entrusted to me. I ran it with precision, discipline, and an unshakable sense of pride. Nothing, no competitor, no scandal, no insider leak, had ever come close to touching the empire I'd painstakingly grown. That is, until Cassandra arrived. She was younger than I expected, striking in a way that made heads turn the second she walked into a room. Jet black hair fell in sleek waves past her shoulders, framing sharp cheekbones and ice blue eyes that seemed to pierce through any facade. She moved with effortless confidence, her tailored suits hugging a silhouette that spoke of power as much as elegance. Every step she took was calculated, deliberate, and maddeningly graceful. Our first encounter was at the annual Midwest Business Summit. I had flown in expecting a room of mild-mannered rivals and polite nods. Instead, there she was, speaking to a group of investors, commanding attention like she owned every inch of the place. "Who is that?" my assistant whispered. "I don't know," I said, feeling something unfamiliar tighten in my chest. "But she's trouble." I was right. As the summit unfolded, it became clear that Cassandra's company, Monroe Innovations, had been quietly encroaching on markets I had dominated for years. Her team had already poached one of my top strategists, secured a crucial partnership with a major client, and was maneuvering in ways that left me scrambling. She wasn't just competition, she was a storm I hadn't anticipated. Later that evening, during the networking dinner, I found myself seated across from her. My chest tightened when our eyes met. "Mr. Linton," she said, her voice smooth but laced with something sharper underneath. "I've heard a lot about you." I gave a polite nod, though every instinct in me bristled. "All good, I hope." She smirked, a small, controlled curl of lips that made my pulse quicken despite my irritation. "Depends on who's asking." I leaned back in my chair, trying to maintain my composure. She was infuriatingly smart and captivating all at once. Every word she spoke, every subtle glance, seemed designed to both challenge me and make me question my own restraint. By the end of the night, I knew two things. She would stop at nothing to beat me, and I, against every professional instinct I had, was intrigued. Over the following weeks, our rivalry escalated. Emails came in sharp tones, negotiations were laced with barbed comments, and every conference call became a battlefield. My team warned me that I was letting her get under my skin. I knew it, but every time I saw her name on a memo or her image pop up on a video call, something in me surged, equal parts anger and curiosity. Our first direct confrontation was during a high-stakes pitch for a potential merger with a tech startup. I arrived early, reviewing notes, rehearsing my key points. Cassandra walked in 10 minutes later, flawless as always, her presence immediately commanding the room. She didn't acknowledge me, at least not verbally, but the way her eyes flicked toward me sent a shiver down my spine. The meeting began, and I fought to remain professional. Cassandra was brilliant, presenting ideas that were innovative, sharp, and frighteningly persuasive. Every point she made countered mine. Every strategy one thought would impress the client was met with a solution she had already preempted. It was maddening. I had spent years building my reputation, my expertise, my authority, and here she was dismantling it piece by piece, all while looking utterly serene. At one point, I caught her staring at me directly, her expression unreadable, and felt a strange pull, a dangerous mixture of respect and something far more unsettling. My heart raced, my mind screamed at me to stay focused, but a part of me, a part one didn't want to admit, was fascinated. By the end of the meeting, the client looked torn. I left the room knowing two things. Cassandra had just won, and my carefully controlled life had just been disrupted in a way I hadn't expected. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every moment, every word, every flash of blue eyes and sharp smiles. I hated her. I wanted to destroy her professionally. Yet, beneath the rage, an undeniable spark of curiosity, and something I would not yet name, burned quietly. I didn't know it then, but that spark would grow, twisting into a force I could neither fight nor fully understand. The weeks following the merger pitch were a haze of tense encounters and professional clashes. Every phone call, every board meeting, every email from Cassandra felt like a carefully aimed arrow. And yet, in those arrows, I found myself strangely intrigued. It was during a late-night strategy session that the shift began. I had stayed behind in the office, reviewing proposals, when I noticed movement at the floor's edge. Cassandra had been there earlier in the day, gone for a client meeting, or so I thought. "You're still here," she said softly, startling me. Her voice had that precise, crisp quality that made it impossible not to pay attention. "I could say the same to you," I replied, keeping my tone professional, though my heart rate betrayed me. She moved closer, standing over the large conference table cluttered with spreadsheets and reports. The scent of her perfume, something floral, heady, intoxicating, wafted toward me, and I had to remind myself to breathe. "Why are we fighting so hard?" she asked, eyes locking onto mine. "I mean, yes, our companies are competitors, but sometimes I wonder, is it really about the business?" I blinked, taken aback. "Excuse me?" She tilted her head, a half-smile playing at her lips. "Don't act surprised. I see it in you, the way you react to me. Don't tell me you don't feel it too." My chest tightened. Rage, confusion, desire. All tangled together in a storm I had no control over. "You're mistaken," I said, my voice sharper than intended. She chuckled softly, the sound like glass tinkling in a quiet room. "Am I? Or are you just too stubborn to admit it?" I wanted to argue, to declare war and keep the boundary clear. But the second her gaze held mine, I realized something terrifying. The more I fought, the more magnetic she became. The line between enemy and something else, something dangerously personal, had begun to blur. Our encounters became a careful dance of provocation and restraint. Business meetings, corporate galas, even chance run-ins at charity events. The air crackled whenever we crossed paths. One night, after an industry award ceremony, I found myself leaving the event alone, my mind racing with thoughts of her. And then she appeared in the hallway, leaning casually against the wall, a glass of champagne in hand. "You're persistent," I said, a hint of exasperation in my voice. "You could say the same," she replied, her eyes sparkling with mischief. For a moment, silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken tension. Then she stepped closer. "I don't want to fight anymore," she whispered, almost teasing, almost serious. "Not tonight." My pulse thumped in my ears. "You think we can just ignore everything?" "Not ignore. Understand?" she said. "I don't want this rivalry to define us. I want it more. Even if it's complicated." And there it was again, the dangerous spark. Something that was supposed to be forbidden, unacceptable. Something that should have been resisted at all costs. I turned away first, fighting the pull, forcing myself to remember who I was, what I had built, and the walls I had erected around my heart. But I knew, even as I walked down the marble corridor, that I had already lost some part of myself to her. By the time I reached the elevator, I realized the truth. Cassandra Monroe wasn't just an adversary. She had become an obsession. And obsessions, as everyone knew, came with a price. The tension that had simmered for weeks finally boiled over one late night. The office was empty, lights dimmed, the faint hum of the city filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. I had stayed behind to finish a report, convinced that distance would protect me. But it didn't. Cassandra appeared silently in the doorway, her silhouette backlit by the neon of the skyline. "You never leave on time," she said softly, stepping inside. I rubbed my temples. "And you never knock." She ignored me, moving closer. "I needed to see you. I couldn't stop thinking about this." Her hand gestured vaguely between us, but the meaning was clear. I swallowed hard, trying to fight the flutter in my chest. "Cassandra, this, whatever this is, we can't." Her lips pressed to mine before I could finish the sentence. It was sudden, shocking, electric. My body betrayed my mind, leaning into a passion I had tried desperately to deny. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathing heavily, she whispered, "I know this is insane, but I can't hide it anymore. I don't want to fight it." The words hit me like a lightning bolt. Her voice, her honesty, her vulnerability, they tore down every wall I had built. And despite the risk, despite the chaos it could cause, I realized I didn't want to stop either. In that moment, enemy and soulmate collided. Desire and reason waged a battle in my chest, but for once I stopped resisting. The following days were a delicate balancing act. By day we maintained professionalism, trading barbed emails and tactical strategies. By night, we collided in stolen moments, whispered confessions, and secret glances that spoke louder than words. I knew we were walking a knife's edge. One misstep could ruin careers, friendships, families. But the more I tried to suppress it, the more our connection deepened, blossoming in ways that neither of us could have anticipated. One evening, Cassandra invited me to a secluded rooftop garden, far from prying eyes. The city sprawled beneath us, a tapestry of lights and possibilities. She took my hand, her touch warm and grounding. "I can't promise it will be easy," she said, "but I can promise it will be real. What we feel, this isn't just infatuation. I know it's dangerous, but it's worth it." I looked at her, at the woman who had been my fiercest competitor, the one I had sworn to despise. And yet, here she was, offering honesty and vulnerability in a way that made my chest ache. "I don't know if the world will ever understand this," I admitted, voice low. "But I do know one thing, I can't imagine living without it, without you." Her eyes glistened with emotion, mirroring the mix of fear and exhilaration I felt. And in the quiet of that night, surrounded by the city's glow, we made a choice. A choice to embrace something forbidden, something perilous but undeniably ours. We weren't just enemies anymore. We weren't just rivals. We were partners in a story that would redefine everything we thought we knew about love, desire, and destiny. For the first time in years, I felt alive in a way that was both terrifying and beautiful. And I knew that whatever storms came our way, we would face them together.